Hagerty is the world's largest provider of specialty insurance for enthusiast vehicles and supports keeping car culture alive through youth programs, the Historic Vehicle Association, the RPM Foundation, and more. Hagerty is home to key programs such as the Hagerty Drivers Club, Hagerty Drive Share, Hagerty Valuation Tools, the Hagerty Drivers Club magazine, and much, much more. For more information, visit their website at hagerty.com. PCA Sim Racing is proud to have Hagerty Motorsports as its 2021 title sponsor.
Our two championship leaders in the challenge and sport classes have a grand total of 1 win. That's right, just one. This drives home the importance of consistency in this fight and offers a valuable lesson for today's race. Oulton Park is a track known for making those who overstep its boundaries pay dearly. Steady as she goes might just be the best approach as we get ready to watch Event 7 of Series 7 of PCA Sim Racing, presented by Hagerty. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth tonight is DJ Clark. Taylor Burris and Rachel Whiteford are reporting from pit lane. And up in the booth, we have Cameron Auburn on social media and Brian Bauer producing, who is using cameras provided by Dougie Beer. As always, the PCA Sim Racing Series is brought to you by Hagerty. Since 1984, Hagerty has been the worldwide leader in collector car insurance. Everything they do is geared towards enabling and enhancing the experience of automotive enthusiasts and making sure that the vehicles we all love and the lifestyles that revolve around them don't just survive, but thrive well into the future. Services include the Hagerty Drivers Club, Drive Share by Hagerty, the shop, and much, much more to fuel car culture. Hagerty, let's drive together. Now, this track is perhaps more well-known to folks over in the realm of Rachel. That's over here in the States. We may not have heard of Oulton Park. Let's introduce our viewers then to this wonderful little track. Welcome to Oulton Park Circuit. This British track to the southeast of Liverpool is a staple in the UK club racing scene, but has also hosted series as high level as Formula One a few times, at least with a small asterisk next to those events since they were non-championship rounds. The history and the lore of the venue is as unique as the layout itself. But that layout is more than just the international circuit this place is known for. An incredible 8 different versions can be run, but they all range between 1.5 to 2.5 miles in length. It's not exactly a long lap around here. What it lacks in that realm, it more than makes up for in bumps and hills. On top of that, Oulton Park offers some very fast corners, so you certainly won't get bored. Turns like Island Bend, Knickerbrook, and Druids can be utterly fearsome depending on which chicanes are at it. But even the slower corners often involve blind crests or kinked entries, making passing a very difficult prospect. In modern day, the place is mainly visited by touring cars, GT cars, motorcycles, and Formula 3. But here on iRacing, it's quite popular with the vintage community. Needless to say, this is a track that carries on the British tradition of fast, old-school style circuits that challenge and thrill drivers. It'll no doubt be a blast for both our competitors and fans today. Well, DJ, from the races you and I have called here, I have a feeling this is going to be a diabolical one for our drivers out there today.
For sure, Joe. It's going to be a very, very tricky track in these Porsche GT3s, and overtaking is going to be at a premium around here. Really the best place to get it done, well, that's going to be going down into Shell's Oil's corner, that hairpin at the end of the long straight. However, with the GT3s, they're going to have to lift a little bit going down into Island Bend, so that may throw some things off. We may see a couple of aggressive overtakes into Druids or Lodge, but I don't think that's necessarily going going to be the case. Now, in terms of danger areas, well, that's pretty much most of the track. This is an old school circuit, and it is very, very twisty and bendy and very narrow. The two areas in particular drivers are going to have to watch out for, well, that's Britain's and that little chicane Hislop's going into Knickerbrook. Those right there are chicanes. There are very, very solid tire barriers on the inside of them. If drivers blow those chicanes, they can find themselves in a world of trouble.
It's certainly going to be one to watch out for. Now, as they finish up their warm-up here, let's take a quick rundown of our points up towards the top because, interestingly, Trip Starkey, despite having his worst finish of the season, well, tying his worst finish of the season, that's only 5th, and he still outscored David Krutzler, who took his drop points. So Starkey is well ahead by a number of points at this stage. Chris Pippen currently holds 3rd in the championship, with Ackerberg Zahn in P4, and then Kim Frick very close behind in 5th. So things staying tight here in the challenge class at this stage. They've also got a clean drivers championship called the Air Reinigen out there, and Trip Starkey also leads that one with only 41 incidents so far this season. But it's pretty close between himself and David Kaufman, who's currently 2nd in that hunt. 5 incidents between them. Going to work a bit like golf out here, as the goal is to have as few incidents as possible. And looks like it is, of course, time for our sponsor, and that is Z1 Dashboard. With each new upgrade of the Z1 Dashboard software, it gets better and more feature-rich, and version 2021.3 is no exception. The Z1 Designer lets you create your own custom displays for use with the Z1 Dashboard, so in addition to the almost 200 standard items, you can add your own custom designs and place the data you want exactly where you want it. Remember, the Z1 Dashboard also takes care of the engineering and strategy for you and helps make sure you are maximizing your on-track performance. To find out more, visit z1dashboard.com. As we head to the grid, drivers are already getting out there, and you can see it is Taylor on the pole by a whopping 1.1 seconds over Adam Spence. Mark Lacombe will start from 3rd, as David Kaufman will be P4. Then it is Gordon Wardle in 5th and Mike Sachs in P6. Hector Garcia starts 7th today. To his outside, it is Frederick Chin. Chris Pippen and Kim Frick will be on row 5. DJ?
Behind them at 11th, it'll be David Krutzler with Greg Palmer in 12th and Trip Starkey in 13th. Scott Kessel will be lining up in P14, followed by James Francis, with Scott Rogers and Joseph Evers behind him. Drew Kenny will be 18th, followed by Andrew Smiley, and Thomas Briggs will round out your top 20.
21st goes to Cyril Bernard, and Jeff Lashway starts 22nd. Then it's Jack Stevenson on the inside of the next row with Craig Smith in 24th, Robert Gordon in 25th, and Bruce Froby in P26. You've got Graham Rennie on the inside of the next row, Freddie Lopez on the outside, Daniel Dugas starts 29th, and 30th goes to Andrew McCune. Stephen Lins is our last one to put a time in 31st. Adam Chick, Komats, and Ubieta will round out your field of 34 here today. Looks like we are getting ready to start pretty soon, as already the pace car is leading them down into Lodge. And as they crest over Deerleap, we'll get the green flag. What kind of start will Garrett Taylor have on this one? As they now come off of that corner, you can see a little bit of a valley, and the green flag is early, and he is off. Looks like it's a very good start over Adam Spence, who got caught napping a little bit, and Mark Lacombe comes down the inside looking for 3rd over Kaufman. That'll all file into Old Hall, and I'm seeing mostly good and clean racing out of there, though it is getting a little frantic as they come down to Cascades, DJ.
It is indeed. Some drivers trying to make some early moves here, but everybody keeping it together nice and easy halfway through the field through Cascades. Everybody nice and clean, Joe.
What about Island Bend? We talked about how marginal that one is coming down into Shell Oil. You can see they come in at quite a bit of speed before they have to brake just after settling the car after that swift left-hand sweeper. So far, so good, except for one car into the barriers. Trying to make out who that is. It looks like Froby, as well as I was trying to see who the other one was, possibly Robert Gordon.
Yeah, it looks like there were a couple of drivers that were collected in that going into Shell's oils, but for the most part, the field able to get up and going nice and easy. Up front, Garrett Taylor already, Joe, with a massive, massive lead.
Not too shocking considering his pace in qualifying, but the battle for P2 is pretty tight. Spence has Lacombe all over his rear bumper as they come into Druids here for the first time. And a great exit from Lacombe is going to offer him a chance into Lodge once again as they now break. And behind them, there's an attempt from Wardle to overtake Kaufman. That's successful. It carries on into Deerleap, and it looks like Lacombe does have third. In the meantime, we have an update from Rachel on the opening wreck.
Yeah, we do. Just coming into Island there, we had an issue where the 5 of Robert Gordon spun out, hit the barriers. You mentioned that. He came back on track and collected the 130 machine there of Bruce Fiobi. And I'm pretty sure maybe one more. No, just those 2 were involved. It was one of those unfortunate situations as he rolled back onto the track and actually contacted as well. He didn't hold the brake at all. Contacted the 26 machine of Stephen Lintz as well. Causing a bit of a bottleneck as cars tried to get round him. Lintz was put round backwards. A real mess there. It was initially not his fault. The car was catapulted out of the track from the tyre barrier. He just then did not hold the brake and caused more mayhem. So we had a big checkup at the rear there. This track is very narrow.
We're watching from onboard Frederick Chin's helmet cam here to give us an idea of how narrow it is. And so often, DJ, we've seen this place in the old school fashion without these chicanes, but this adds a whole different dynamic.
Yeah, it really does, Joe. And both of those chicane sections are truly one-way streets. You can't go too wide through there. So if you're going to try to get a move done on the car in front, you've really got to pull ahead. Checking here on Garrett Taylor. My goodness gracious, Joe, he's got the lead up to 6.5 seconds.
And we're only completing lap 2. This is looking like it might be another stomping. So Garrett Taylor comes across the line yet again, but we've had plenty of battles in the mid-pack. This has been intense through there. Looks like Drew Kenny just had a problem, though. And in fact, he's going to lose yet another spot as Scott Rogers sneaks to the inside. All of it, they make contact. And so a little bit of blinking from Kenny. I thought for a second maybe he had already DNF'd from too many incidents there, but that is not the case, and Rogers gets 16th.
Does indeed, as that looks like Frederick Chin having an off there up ahead of him through Old Hall. Not entirely sure what
That's
happened.
Chin. Sorry, that's Frederick Chin we just saw on screen. We're going to see the replay to try and check in on what happened here. Easy to get that one wrong with this late apex here. And so I think he lost it on his own.
Yeah, it looks like he just got a little over-aggressive, maybe trying to take a look down to the inside of Gordon Wardle there up ahead of him and just locked up the rear tires a little bit. So that'll send Chin around. We jump back up here. This is Mike Sachs currently running in 6th.
Looking on the inside of Kaufman, but David says no this time. Oh, but he's a little bit offline. Tries to cut back. A little bit of a shove off into the grass as Mike Sachs instead loses a position. Hector Garcia gets P6.
Well, that looks like it's the way you're going to have to be around here today, Joe. You've got to be very, very aggressive. We jump back now, riding on board with P11. This is Thomas Briggs as he tries to make a move right now on Krutzler. Going to go down to the inside.
Contact between the pair of them. Krutzler gets sent out. And is that Garcia off track? It is. Hector loses the spot he just gained and then some. And we're going to take a look at a replay because this all of a sudden just all blew up in one turn.
Yeah, it really, really did, Joe. So there you see that dive down to the inside. Ooh, yeah, contact spinning off big time there was Krutzler. And there is Garcia. I don't know what happened to him. He just looks like he was off on his own accord.
We're looking at Evers there for a second. There's Garcia in the 17. Looks like he gets it going at least. And he spun that on his own, unfortunately. Thankfully, nobody else getting collected in it, it seems.
And that was very, very close there coming up from behind. A couple more drivers having a little bit of a problem there. I'm seeing Froby having some stuff. But here is Drew Kenny as he tries to make his way up through the field. He's currently up 7 positions. It's going to be Scott Rogers directly ahead of him.
Yeah, look at how tightly they are packed as well. Rogers, as you mentioned in there, Trip Starkey, our championship leader, all the way down in 9th. And then they've also got Greg Palmer in front of them I mentioned as we were going through the pre-race, Starkey's worst finish is a 5th place, so this is highly unusual to see the 20 this far down.
Well, this is a bit of an outlier of a circuit, Joe, as it's just not really what we've seen thus far. Even with something as different as the Fontana Roval, this is something altogether different. Very, very old school, very, very narrow.
Yeah, certainly is. It's a very technical track, too. Wardle's struggled a little bit here on the binders as he tried to swing it through Lodge, now up into Old Hall. Sitting in 3rd place, definitely sliding around still here in these cooler conditions with the sun just coming up in the morning out here in England. And I saw a problem from Mike Sachs. He is off in Druids. I think just a slight contact with the wall, and he is once again on his way.
Yeah, and we're seeing a lot of that out of these drivers tonight. Barely holds on to it there. This is backing up that replay a little bit. Yeah, specifically going into Druids, Lodge, those couple of very fast right-handers, drivers just having some very, very difficult times getting those cars wound up for those.
Thankfully, we do have Rachel here who's been to this track in real life. Whoa, as Mike Sachs... Oh, excuse me, we're still on the replay. I was going to say, Rachel, you at least know where to look around here, being familiar with where the incidents tend to happen.
Yeah, I do. I will say this is a great little track. It's so narrow and so twisty. It's such a fun place to watch racing, but most of the actual spectators tend to be in the central part of the track. So that first boxy part of the track you have between basically behind the main pit straight. That whole hillside there usually fills up with cars and fans, and a lot of people watch down to Hislops and the chicane. That is a fantastic spot because it's so raised up. Go on.
Sorry, we just saw Drew Kenny with an issue. Stevenson made a little bit of contact, and I think Andrew Smiley as well. We're seeing how this started as we're getting the replay on screen. Oh, touched the grass, went around a Knickerbrook, and will try to get going. Unfortunately, that's right on the racing line, and that's what caused the contact.
Yeah, that's what caused the contact, but that is what drivers were advised to do here, Joe, is if they found themselves in a precarious position, just hold the brakes, be a stationary object for drivers to come around. So while that may have looked pretty bad there for Drew Kenny, he did do what race control had advised him.
Oh, Garrett Taylor with his one drop week being the first round. Oh, and Mark Lacombe. Mark Lacombe has gone off at Island Bend, the latest victim of that scary left-hander. Another one to fall into the barrier, and that takes him out of the podium.
And this may be terminal, Joe. Big thwap into that tire barrier right there. He was very, very slow. That car looking a little bit sluggish, and indeed it's lost its hood around here. But now we jump back to the battle for P9. This is Scott Rogers trying to work on Thomas Briggs.
They're flanked by Trip Starkey up ahead, as well as Transnick behind them down into the second chicane here, as they now head out of Hislops through Knickerbrook and up towards Clay Hill. The track rises and veers its way off the left. You can see just how narrow it is with the Armco on either side. Nobody able to gain enough to attack through here, it seems, although Briggs still has a mirror full of that 737. In fact, he is going to get a good launch now. And as he looks for the pass, it's a defense from Briggs to hold him off.
It's a defense from Briggs, and that was a slightly narrower line there from Rogers going into the corner. I think that cost him a little bit of time. They're now going to come across the start-finish straight here and be in single file order. Left definitely looked like Scott Rogers lost some time there.
And Taylor, there have been some drivers taking advantage of some of these problems for others. Who's been our biggest mover so far?
Well, none other than one of the founding members of the Ballast Point Brewery Company, Albert Ubeta, who started 34th, has moved his way up into the 17th position. A strong drive for him right now. Has a little bit of damage to the nose at number 10, Ballast Point. But other than that, he is still pushing on, looking to gain a few more spots. His next competitor is just 4.4 seconds up the road. That's the 9 of Jack Stevenson.
Back up to Spence in third. Wardle having been promoted into P2 now, but he's struggling, having to weave back across through Hislops to get to the right line. Spence not able to take advantage of that behind them. Kaufman still following. As we watch off the back of Gordon now, you can see David in the 08 just kind of hovering around this battle.
Yeah, and I don't think he really wants to push anything too hard. None of these drivers at the front want to try to go for the super aggressive move and risk throwing away what could be a good race result here. It's just all about consistency at this point, especially with as many drivers as we've seen have issues here thus far.
All right, in through Old Hall once again. That late apex opening the door a little bit, but Spence can't quite step through. We have another off for Komats there for a second. I think we might have. We watch from on board, looking over the shoulder of Adam Spence up at P2. Let's see if everybody stays on the track this time through Island Bend. And yes, indeed, they're going to be nice and tidy down into the hairpin.
All right, so everybody keeping it together there. Everyone can breathe a little bit of sigh of relief. Joe going up here, 10.5 seconds already for the Kansas City region driver, Garrett Taylor, out in the lead.
Amazingly, that's actually slowed down his progress, because remember, he was up to 6.5 after 2 laps were done, but we're up to lap 8 now. And he's only made about 4 more seconds. Only, I say. Trip Starkey, sitting in 8th position, continues to have those blinking problems. His internet not looking too great. Leading along a whole train of cars. Briggs, Fradsnick still behind him. Scott Rogers as well. This is all for essentially just inside of the top 10.
Yeah, indeed, but I mean, this could be for the top 5. By the way, we've seen this race go, and Joe, anything can pretty much happen around here, as they've seen Stevenson a little wide there, coming around Knickerbrook, but able to keep it together. Jumping back up now to the Pacific Northwest region driver David Kaufman, as he is just stalking behind Spencer Wardle.
And the battle for second remains within roughly a second. Wardle, Spence, Kaufman not giving this one up. I've seen Hector Garcia have a few offs. We don't need to go to it, but he seems to be really struggling at today's circuit. Down through Island Bend, looks like Gordon's going to be far enough ahead that the 055 can't really make an attempt here.
Yeah, not close enough to really make it there, but rest assured that pressure's coming on. Speaking of pressure, here comes James Fransnick trying to make a move.
Oof, and that was a gutsy one, but decided to back out of it as Briggs said no into Island Bend. Not really a too wide corner. James, a newcomer to this class, and has quickly worked his way up. I can kind of see why if he's running top 10 in his very first race.
Yeah, he may be one to take a look at as we go. And so here we keep going on.
And as we look, and thought I heard somebody having, that's lap traffic guiding them by, actually. That is Bernard. And it sounds like we got an update from Taylor. I believe you've got a little bit of an update here.
Yeah, we're going to look at James Frasnick, who is the Ballast Point Entry-Level Series champion. Pretty much dominated the entire season, winning 4 out of the 5 races in that championship. As part of the Southern Coast Florida region, has had a great season and looking to showcase his talent in the Entry-Level Series. And also does a little bit of racing outside of the virtual world with over at Sebring the other weekend, doing a little bit of testing.
Sorry, we just had a wreck between Spence and Wardle into Cascades. That was our battle for P2, and it hands that second place to Kaufman on a silver platter. Here's the replay.
Joe, that was a Wardle self-spin. He touched the grass, and right behind him, just a little bit of incident fixation there, and that led to P2 and P3 getting off and into each other.
So that was Spence and Wardle that made the contact there, but only after Wardle had left the track. This is from Spence's view. I think you're right. He just was watching it so much that the car kind of veered off. And this is a blind entry. You can see just how little you can see of it. And I think, yeah, touching the grass is what started it all. And Wardle just couldn't help but spin from there.
Yeah, and in terms of Adam Spence, that is a very, very common thing. If you see a driver spin in front of you, your eyes are naturally going to go to that abrupt motion. And as a result, you're not looking through the corner. You're not focusing on your braking points, and that just sort of millisecond hesitation, especially on a fast corner like Cascades like that, that's just enough to send you off and into the grass.
On board with Scott Rogers here. And Trip Starkey just ahead of him, trying to chase on Thomas Briggs. Just one little touch of the grass, and we've seen multiple cars already lose it. It seems particularly slippery, and it looks like Adam Spence is going to pit this time as these drivers stream by him on the front stretch. We haven't got to talk much about it today, but pit stops are a part of the strategy here. If you're having trouble passing, DJ, that might be the way to go.
It very well might be the way to go. And also, as we've talked about a couple of times during the course of races, with drivers having incidents out here, coming in and taking that fuel may be a way to just get yourself a nice little mental reset. You stay stationary in the box for a couple of seconds, you grab a drink of water, you take a couple of deep breaths, and you get yourself back out on track and hope to find a good rhythm around here.
And by the way, because of that wreck for second place, Kaufman, who inherited P2, is now a full 15 seconds behind Garrett Taylor. Basically, this is Garrett's race to lose as we take a look at Kaufman on your screen. And now we see the 29 coming up to lap traffic. We kind of expected that to be a factor in this. It's only 2.5 miles around this circuit.
Yeah, it's a very, very short circuit, and Taylor's got to be careful around here getting by those lapped cars. Yes, drivers are courteous in this series, and they know what those blue flags mean, but there are so many fast and sweeping corners here that just one little errant mistake could cause calamity.
Got a bit of a battle brewing for 6th place. It's Greg Palmer in that position right now, but he's been caught by Briggs, and he's brought friends with him as we ride on board with Thomas. Behind him, a little wide for Scott Rogers. And in fact, a couple cars going off track. That is just a lapped car trying to stay out of the way of them. None of them into the pits as they all come to start a new circuit around this place and into Cascades. But Palmer does not look like he has the speed compared to that 4 car.
No, he really doesn't, and it may just be an issue of him not wanting to push too hard at this point. Yes, track temperatures are only 69 degrees, but you do not want to run the risk of overcooking your tires whatsoever around here. You get them too hot, you are going to be on a skating rink, and so he may just be trying to be cool here and be as collected as possible.
All right, well, as they come into Britain's now, and we look at David Kaufman. Apparently, this is one of the few drivers that still has 0x out here. We've seen a lot of spins and a lot of off tracks, unfortunately, Big A, today. And I believe, well, Greg Palmer, who we were just watching, is one of the other few ones that has 0x, along with Joseph Evers, who is just behind that train himself. Graham Rennie, another one there in 19th. And then our last one is the one behind him, Andrew McCune.
All right, good to see some drivers here keeping those clean laps. That is the way to certainly finish the race here at Oulton Park. Jump back up here to Scott Rogers. That's Trip Starkey blinking a little bit ahead of him, but this is one of the best battles we have on track right now. Palmer leads this train, followed by Briggs, Starkey, and Rogers.
They've been stuck together now, and we were saying earlier, pit stops could be a viable strategy, but Thomas Briggs has not elected to come in yet. The downside, I guess, is if you come out in slower traffic, then you'll have the opposite effect of what you wanted. And man, yeah, you can see a lot of the blinking happening. As we come back to Adam Spence, who we know was involved in an incident before, and that was with Gordon Wardle, but Wardle's doing a lot better job recovering because Spence is quite off the pace of our leader.
Yeah, it really is, Joe, and I'm trying to take a look around the car right now to see if there's any problems at all. Doesn't look like there's too much damage to it. We are hearing word that he has pitted, so he's probably used his fast repair. So that second off time, well, that could be a combination of two things. One, Garrett Taylor is just a superhuman person out here right now. And number two, he could be caught up a little bit behind Ubeda.
This is Freddie Lopez in a battle with Mike Sachs in front of him. 0.8 of a second between them. Also explains why Adam Spence is so much farther down than Wardle. So glad we got the update on that one. I was a little bit shocked that they were so distant to one another. Can also report, well, I thought somebody had gotten past. Oh no, Thomas Briggs just had, I think, a bit of contact with the wall coming into pit lane.
Ooh, it's a very tricky pit entrance here, Joe. A very, very quick chicane. So we're watching that yellow number 4 right here. Let's watch him as he comes on in. Now this is going through Lodge. That's right up on Deerleaf. Let's see. Comes into the pits. Nope, right there.
Thankfully, it didn't look like it was too hard of a hit, and Thomas Briggs is out of the pits now and into 10th place. So he is our highest pitter. Actually, am I seeing that right? Did he have a drive-through penalty? That might have been a drive-through penalty. And he just spun now as well. And at some point, he might have to serve another one, because every 5 incidents beyond their initial drive-through penalty, they're going to get another one. So I think poor Thomas Briggs is going to have a quick visit back if he keeps this pattern up. Really unfortunate to see. That means Adam Spence is still our highest pitter here in this race, as we look at Greg Palmer with Trip Starkey behind him.
Yeah, indeed, that 4-car battle now developing into a little bit of a 3-car battle, but spacing out a little bit as of right now. Nobody really opting to go into the pits here, although it does look like Gordon Wardle is our latest to pull the trigger.
Yes, indeed. Wardle down on the lane, and this does look like a scheduled stop. Scott Rogers, who wasn't too far behind him, also does the same. Rogers, oh, but nope, Rogers is not. Rogers gets a drive-through. The latest of our drivers to suffer from that, unfortunately. And on board right now, we are watching from the car of Adam Spence. And wow, he is easily past Wardle. In fact, Wardle has something wrong in his pit stall, because he is up to 30 seconds stationary. This is not a scheduled stop at this stage.
I wonder if he maybe picked up a pit lane speeding penalty there, Joe. As we said, that can be a very tricky corner to get down to going into pit lane. We saw what happened there with the drivers earlier. You can hit that outside barrier. You catch the tires wrong, it can catch you out.
Yeah, and poor Wardle, it's a 31-mile-an-hour speed limit, so it's incredibly slow around here. Well, that's good news for Spence, who finds himself back in it and now challenging Ubeta. This is for position. This is 9th on track right now, but Albert has not pitted yet.
No, he has not, but he's going to see what he can do to try to hold off that charging Spence, as he is under no obligation to let him go. Spence looks like he's got a much better exit there coming out of Knickerbrook. He's going to dive to what will be the outside when they get to Druids. Already on by. Ubeta's got a lot of front-end damage to that number 10 Porsche, so I think that may have been a little bit of a lift, discretion being the better part of valid.
All right, then. As we come back to Mark Lacombe, who has finished his stop. He's sitting in 12th. He's the 3rd highest driver to have pitted thus far. And this is Krutzler just in front of him. 2nd place in the championship that he is chasing. Krutzler at least, well, now into the top 10 as we get more cars down pit lane. I see Andrew McCune just having finished what is a long stop for him as well. Not sure what caused that. Now through Denton's into Cascades, and Lacombe has dropped away a little bit.
Yeah, he has dropped, but ooh, there he's not dropping back, though, able to carry a little bit better speed. He's going to take a poke to what will be the outside going down through Island Bend. Not going to make it work there. He's going to have to fall back.
But he's certainly threatening the 74, watching out those mirrors. as they come up to the first of the chicanes here along the back stretch through Britain's. Then they accelerate over Hilltop and towards Hislops. Looking for the brake markers here, and they got to watch out for these tire pylons on the inside, because if you hit those, they do a lot of damage.
Yeah, Joe, they're a little less like tire pylons and a little bit more of cinder blocks. If you so much as nick those cars, they will do absolutely incredible amounts of damage to whatever you are driving. Drivers were warned about that before, and anybody who runs this track will know that all well. But Garrett Taylor here continues to lead as he gets out around here. I think he's trying to press his advantage a little bit. He may have a gap of clean air behind him if he's able to stretch just a little bit more. Behind him, I wouldn't be surprised if David Kaufman maybe dives in. There's a really nice gap between Craig Smith and the 8th place car of Kessel out on track right now that he may be able to slot into.
I can also report that Greg Palmer is in and out, and he is just behind the battle between Lacombe and Krutzler now. So we are watching second place Kaufman on your screen up into Druids. Good news for David is Chris Pippin is about 6 seconds behind, so really no threat. And our leader is in pit lane.
All right, so there he is diving on down the lane. Now he may find a little bit of open air here behind the 28th place machine of Cyril Bernard. While he does that, we're going to check in here on the battle for 7th.
This is Kessel chasing Spence. Looks like Pippin and Kaufman did not pit in. And Scott Kessel certainly threatening on Spence, who's got Lashway in front of him. That is a lapped car, so that's not for position. It's just between these two for that 7th place, but this could play a part, especially when things like that happen, where Lashway almost spins into Spence, but thankfully keeps it off the track. That did scare Kessel a little bit, and he loses a car length or two.
Yes, he does indeed, and going very slow there. We're going to go back and check out the replay. There just runs it off at the corner there. This is Lashway that we're watching. Everybody running nice and easy here as they crest up over the hill into that sweeping left-hander, and then down. Does he get on the inside? Yep. Looks like just a little bit too much bite from those front tires.
I'm just really glad that did not wreck either of those cars behind, especially the day that Spence has been having. So Taylor came back out, even with his gap, in 3rd place. We're still waiting on Kaufman and Pippin, as well as Evers, to pit. I think them and Rennie and Chin are the last ones that we need on the lane. So our temporary leader, does he pit this time by? Yes, he does.
Indeed, so he's going to pop in. I'm now keeping my eye on Chris Pippin. Pippin also is going to elect to come down pit lane.
Should be an easy retake of the lead for Garrett Taylor. We haven't seen any major issues up to this point as we ride on board with him. And yes, indeed, he flashes back to the front. So Evers going to be our next one. Does he pit in? Nope, he does not. He's going to try and go long, it appears, and that will get him up into 2nd, actually, at least temporarily. Kaufman just exiting pit lane behind him.
Yeah, indeed. So he's just trying to overcut this a little bit, maybe trying to find that good gap. Although speaking of good gaps, it looks like that behind him, Kaufman found an absolute beauty of one as he was able to just slot out in perfectly clean air.
Yeah, that worked out perfectly for him. Chris Pippin also didn't do too shabby himself. He's got nobody in front of him, and it's about 10 seconds, no, excuse me, 5.7 seconds behind him to the next car down. So we watch the 08 there on screen over Hilltop. Last driver still needing to pit, the 830 of Evers through Hislop chicane and out of Knickerbrook. I think we are going to see him in this time as we're just about 14 minutes left to go. So we should be pretty close to the end of the pit window. And some sad news for fans of our championship leader. Trip Starkey's internet problems have forced the stewards to ask him to park it here today because they do not like drivers with bad internet connections flashing around their rivals. So it is sad to see he won't be able to compete, but that is the nature of the beast sometimes. As finally Evers is in, and will have to relinquish his positions. Boy, he had a close pit stall to the entry. That will take us to a midway race report brought to you by Z1 Dashboard. With each new upgrade of the Z1 Dashboard software, it gets better and more feature-rich, and version 2021.3 is no exception. The Z1 Designer lets you create your own custom displays for use with the Z1 Dashboard. So in addition to the almost 200 standard items, you can add your own custom designs and place the data you want exactly where you want it. Remember, the Z1 Dashboard also takes care of the engineering and strategy for you and helps make sure you are maximizing your on-track performance. To find out more, visit z1dashboard.com. Rachel?
Thank you very much, Garrett Taylor. The man that has definitely found the plan of this racetrack is out front by a country mile here. A Cheshire country mile. Kansas City region driver in the 29 car from zone 10 started on the pole and is still very much running on the pole. And this man seems to like the tight country lanes of Oulton Park. Second place is David Kaufman. He started fourth. He's running in second, gaining 2 for him. And the 08 Pacific Northwest region driver is pushing this one hard. And Chris Pippin is pipping his way up to third place right now, technically, on track, up from 17th. Although Joseph Evers, I believe, is actually kind of shaking around there with the numbers, but it is Pippin. Kansas City region driver in a 16 car from zone 10. He is up from 9th place. 4th place. Adam Spence, the Kansas City region driver, another Kansas guy. This series loves them. The 055 from zone number 10. Spence is down from 2nd place, so it's been a rougher day for him, but he's had some track grip issues. 5th place is going to be Scott Kessel, Northeast region driver from zone 1. Kessel is up from 14th. He's definitely on a Kessel run right now. As I hate myself already for making that remark, the 48 car is on the move. Never mind, I'm not going to get into the argument about parsecs being distance rather than time, but Greg Palmer in the 44 car from Milwaukee region, zone number 13. Palmer is up from 12th place, so he's definitely getting a hold of this one by the Palmer. 7th place, the 19 car of Mark Lacombe from the Pacific Northwest region of zone number 6 is down from 3rd place. He's had a bit of a struggle too, but quite a few drivers had. This track is a bit Marmite. Some like it, some don't. Here's P8 right now. This is the 830, the Big Sky region driver of Joseph Evers. Ever been sat on the freeway behind someone who just won't get out of the way? Yeah, this is Joseph Evers, who hasn't pitted yet. And this is why it's the 2/3 of the race, mid-race break. He's only just pitted, or is about to pit, I believe. And it's definitely thrown off our ability to run through this list. So that's why. Here comes the Cobra Kai machine of Scott Rogers, the Rocky Mountain region driver from zone 9 in that 737 machine. Scott's up from 16th, so big gains for him as well. And it's David Krutzler in the 10th spot from the 74 car. Suncoast, Florida region, battling right here with Wardle, who we're going to look at next. In fact, here he is. Real tight shot there. Great to show off the car. Gordon Wardle in the 3 car, the Gulf Coast region driver from zone 12. As I think our producer's getting a little cinematic here. At the moment, he might be up for an Art House Award. As we get on to Andrew Smiley just behind him. Smiley started 19th, he's up 5 right now to 12th place. The Connecticut Valley region driver is getting a move on here. Kim Frick behind him in 13th place. The Napa region driver from the 66 car, it's like in English again, I promise, is getting a good run on today. Frick up down from 10th though, so he's got 3 to regain to draw even. 14th is going to be Jack Stevenson, the Chicago region driver in the 9 car from zone 13. He has been getting the work going so far, but it's still a little bit rocky at the moment. 23rd to 14th, big gains. 15th place. Oh, we've got Joe in.
It sounds like we've had a couple drive-thrus of some of our major players. Wardle got one, and Mark Lacombe have both suffered penalties, so they've fallen down the order. Sorry, Rachel.
Oh no, all good whatsoever. We're at P16 right now, which is Frederick Chin. Las Vegas region driver here from 14 car in zone number 8. He is currently down from 8th place, so a bad rating so far for him. Taylor?
As we move on to the 17th position, it is the 12 car of Jeff Lashaway, who is in a exciting battle right now with the 4 car of Thomas Briggs, as we are on board with him, working through the chicane. Great battle as we're now back on board with the Maverick Region's driver. Thomas Briggs going on for a wild ride, holds on there, and is able to keep on going here as he works his way down the back half of the course. Moving on to P19 is the Mid-Ohio Region's very own Craig Smith. Craig, of course, is a very beautiful, out-of-this-world livery. I have to say it's probably one of the most colorful ones out there on the circuit with the purple, personal favorite of mine. And having a decent run as he sits after gaining a few spots and starting in 30th. Rounding out your top 20, as we see that's the 12 car of Lashaway with an off. We'll have to go to the next car of Albert Ubeta from the San Diego region. He's going to go a little off-roading. Hold on for dear life there, Albert. Make sure you have a Sculpin in hand, but make sure you're after the race you have that Sculpin as he continues on his way through with the Ballast Point Brewery Porsche. As we continue on through the field, there's Andrew McCune from the Rocky Mountain region in car number 55 trying to chase down Albert. He's having a quiet night as well after starting in 30th position. Next up is Cyril Bernard, who's had also part of the entry-level series. Had a decent run last in the Ballast Point entry-level series, looking to see if he can showcase his talent here in this challenge class. James Frasnick, your Ballast Point entry-level champion, is running in 22nd. Had to suffer a penalty early on, but is now trying to recover in that number 76. Patrick Adamczyk from the Upper Canada region, the car 407, is running in 23rd. He is under immense pressure from a couple of lead lap cars that are trying to work their way through the field, but so far has had a quiet race, looking to see if he can pick up a few after starting in 32nd. Mike Sachs in the car 599 has had a couple of offs, but the driver who started 6th not having the best of nights here in the UK, looking to see if he can try to find a way to get a top 20 finish. The last car on the track is the 777 of Freddie Lopez from the Pacific Northwest region, as he's going to try to see if he can gain a few more spots after starting 28th. The rest of the cars are out of tonight's race. Trip Starkey, Robert Gordon, Hector Garcia, Stephen Linz, Daniel Dugas, Steve Komax, Bruce Friobi, and Drew Kinney is your 34-car field. Joe?
This concludes tonight's Midway Race Report, brought to you by Z1 Dashboard. Big thanks to Z1 Dashboard, and thank you to Rachel and Taylor for taking us through the field. Up at the front, Garrett Taylor is up to 20.7 seconds, and we're 25 laps into this thing. He is just about averaging a second a lap faster than anybody else out there, slightly less than that. Well, Scott Rogers is getting very close to the back of Joseph Evers there for a moment into his laps. Thankfully does not make contact, but boy, he looks good on the binders.
He certainly does. Had to check himself up a little bit there, and that's going to lose him a couple of tenths as they now make their way through the corners and into Druids. But it really does look like Rogers has got a pretty good car underneath him in that 737, gaining a little bit as they make their way towards Lodge.
Sounds like we've got some more trivia here today at Oulton Park. Taylor, what's today's question?
Well, the question for this race here today is we are looking for a former factory Porsche driver that won this race or at this track in a Formula One event. So that's the answer we're looking for, is a former factory Porsche driver who won at this race here in a non-points race Formula One event.
And we had an off as we were hearing that question. The 48 into Shell Oil's Bend unfortunately found the barrier. Here's the replay. Easy to do this one. And actually, I'd say, DJ, he's probably pretty lucky he doesn't have worse damage.
Very lucky. Oh, that was a pretty hard lick to the back of the car, but at the same time, Doesn't look like that rear wing is too affected. You can see him there swirling under braking, though. Yeah, ooh, into the barriers. That car has got some serious rear suspension damage.
And he has decided to park it. Wow, that is a shame. He was running in the top 5 up until that point, and with a mere 5 seconds to go, 5 minutes to go, he was unable to make it to the checkered flag. Back to Scott Rogers. This has been sort of an unsung hero this race. We keep checking over on Scott, and every single time he's got some sort of battle going on.
Yeah, he does. Now he's trying to close down on Joseph Evers right ahead of him. Looks like he's able to carry just a hair more on speed through Lodge there. Now they come up and now into Lodge, excuse me. There he goes, tighter apex into the corner. Is that going to allow him to carry a little bit more speed? Differing lines coming up over Deerly.
Not afraid to get it right up against the edges there. Oh, and a very different line doesn't work out well for Rogers as he falls way back from Evers.
Yeah, I think he may have just brushed a little bit of the grass there, but we're going to jump back on formerly P2 is Mark Lacombe as he's trying to now challenge on Kim Frick ahead of him, diving down into the right-hander here, diving down the hill before coming back up again as they make their way past the start-finish line. Frick feeling that pressure.
And our leader just about threw it away. The gap has come down from close to 22 seconds down to 16 and went off at the Hislop chicane last time through. Not sure if we've got a replay on that, but it hasn't been totally perfect for the 29 at this point. But then that's why you build up those sort of buffers. There's the tail end of it.
All right, so this is going down into that chicane. Ooh, just misjudges the braking zone. Some lap traffic coming around him. Very careful to avoid that tire barrier. Heads up play there from Taylor. Didn't try to get back onto the binders or onto the loud pedal too early. Oh, and Rogers making the move on Evers. They're in contact and they're off.
And into the wall goes Evers as Rogers gets back on the course, but I think he's going to lose his spot to Krutzler now. Here's the replay. This is into Druids. It was ambitious, and he did get to the inside, but I don't think he had quite enough grip to try and get the car turned in because they both, yeah, you could see the contact there from that onboard. Oof.
Yeah.
Boink.
Yeah, Rogers just carrying way too much speed into that corner. He was never going to slow down and get that car fully turned to the right.
All right, then. Well, this is great news for the drivers that were behind them, including David Krutzler, who's now up to 6th because of that. So gain a few spots the easy way as they slide off the course down to the last 2 minutes, actually, here on the circuit. In fact, we are going to see white flag next time by. We're on the penultimate circuit as we check out Mark Lacombe, who is back out and rolling in 11th, and he's chasing on Kim Frick.
Yes, he is. Carries a little bit more momentum there out of Old Halls. Now they go down the avenue and into Cascades. Oh, that's going to be Lacombe poking his nose to the inside a little bit. I think that was just a little bit of a head fake, trying to see if he could scare Frick offline. Didn't really work there. Now they are down into that deep and around Shell's Oil's corner. He's trying to get the draft here, but I think that was Frick that was able to get a better run.
And don't forget, Mark started this race on the inside of the second row. So this 11th place is going to be a disappointing one for him as we look at Taylor now, who has lapped everybody up to 9th place. So that means Lacombe is actually even a lap down from the astonishingly quick Garrett Taylor.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't put the cameras on Garrett all that much tonight, but his pace is just absolutely extraordinary. And I've got to say, does that wing look a little bit deformed to you, Joe? That doesn't look perfectly straight.
No, that's not factory spec. I think the Porsche scrutineers are going to have to take a second look at that one, unfortunately. But taking one last look at this track is Garrett Taylor, who now gets the white flag and crosses the start-finish line. So the Kansas City region driver just has to cruise to victory from here. And in fact, lap traffic is way up the road for him. And we come back to David Krutzler now, who has another position on his plate potentially. This is Greg Palmer just in front of him.
Yeah, and this could be pretty crucial. This is for P5. That'll be a good haul there for Crutzler. If he's able to get this move done, that'll be 6 places up on the day. Moves to the left, moves to the right, comes back into the racing line, just trying to scare Palmer a little bit, I think, as they work their way through that Hislop's chicane and now through Knickerbrook. Some slower cars in front of them getting out of the way. He's just trying to tuck up behind the best he can. Maybe we're going to see a move into Druids potentially.
Doesn't look like he's quite close enough. Still keeping the pressure on. He's got a whole nother lap after this one, don't forget, because they have not been lapped by Taylor, who is just heading through his laps himself. About half a lap to go for the 29. It's back up to 21 seconds over Kaufman. That was 16 seconds, I want to say at least 2 or 3 laps ago. So he has turned the wick up once again. We jump over to the battle for 5th.
Indeed, Crutzler just trying to close in. There's some good run for him. He's going to take a look to the inside. Is that going to be enough to hold it? He's got to back out of it as Very heads up. Palmer shuts the door going through Cascades.
And we've got to go to our leader because that is victory for Garrett Taylor here in Event 7 by a whopping 22 seconds in the end.
Oy, oy, oy. I didn't even realize he was that far around, Joe. That's how big of a gap he had. We're now able to jump back into that battle for P5. Only a couple more spots for Crutzler to try to get this move done.
Yeah, coming up to the second chicane here into his laps. Too far back from what I can tell for Crutzler. Don't think he's going to have anything into here. His best hope going to be trying to either surprise him or scare a mistake out of the 44. They now head through Clay Hill and Water Tower. 2 fast, flat-out left-hand kinks going right into the braking of Druids. Once again, just too far back here. Can he get the exit? Up to Lodge. It looks like he might. Now Palmer might have to defend. Does Crutzler try and send it in deep? He takes a look. Late defense there from the 44. And he is going to retain that spot. A nice 5th place from Greg Palmer after starting 12th today.
Yeah, really, really good run up through the field for Greg Palmer, up 7 spots on the day. Here's the last car on the lead lap, Joe. That is Scott Rogers, who's going to be working his way to come home P9.
And is he sputtering out of fuel here? Oh, Scott Rogers just unfortunately not putting quite enough in his pit stop, which I guess won't matter too much because, as we mentioned, he's the last one on the lead lap. So that takes us to our finishing order with Garrett Taylor taking the win over David Kaufman by a huge margin. Chris Pippin with a bit of a quiet 3rd place, up from 9th on the grid. Adam Spence falling backwards to 4th in the end, as Greg Palmer finishes 5th, up 7 spots. Crutzler behind him, up 5 to finish 6th. It is Joseph Evers up 10 into P7. You've got Andrew Smiley finishing 8th, last driver on the lead lap, as Kim Frick will be 9th. Mark Lacombe will round out your top 10.
Gordon Wardle down 6 spots on the day to come home 11th, followed by Jack Stevenson, who was up 11. Scott Rogers came home 13th, followed by Graham Rennie in 14th and Craig Smith in 15th. Rennie, by the way, one of your other big movers, up 13. Behind Smith was Frederick Chin in 16th, followed by Albert Ubeta, who was the big mover of the day, up 17 spots. Mike Sachs was down a couple to come home 18th and 2 laps down. Andrew McCune was 19th, and James Franznick was in 20th.
Patrick Adamczyk finished 21st with Bernard in 22nd, Lashway P23. You got Scott Kessel 24th, along with Freddie Lopez in P25, and then Thomas Briggs 26, 9 laps down. From there, it is DNFs all the way to 34th position, unfortunately. But the man who seemed to have the best measure of this track was Garrett Taylor, and we're ready to talk to him now. Garrett, congratulations on that win. What is the difference here that you've found compared to everybody else? Because both in qualifying and the race, you were just in a league of your own.
A lot of practice this week. I did a couple practice races with the faster groups, and that really helped show me where to be and show me how to get around the track quickly.
I'd say it did, as you really made our jaws hit the floor, even already once we saw qualifying through. You didn't have it completely perfect, though. It looked like you had a little bit of an off in his laps. Was that just a lack of focus, or what happened?
Yeah, I was scrolling through the menus looking for how much fuel I had left and how much time we had left, and I wasn't paying attention, so I had to use the grass for a minute.
Well, that explains it then. So, always got to keep your eyes on the road there. Well, man, after a performance like that, I got to think that you got to be eyeing maybe jumping up sometime soon into the next class.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know how that works, but hopefully that's in the cards.
Congratulations on the third win for you this season or this series. Anybody you want to thank?
My race coach Brian was a big help for this race. He helped me figure out how to navigate traffic and stay clean, stay out of hitting other cars.
Great stuff. That was our winner, Garrett Taylor here. And I believe up next we have DJ with David Kaufman, who finished P2.
Well, David, obviously, Garrett just kind of ran away with that, but you were able to run a pretty good, clean race and find yourself up on the podium. That's got to feel good at a race where there was so much calamity.
Yeah, it was. It feels really good. This is really nice for me.
A couple of sketchy moments there out for you. Talk me through running a track like this where it seems like every single corner can bite you.
Yeah, it can. I think the key on this track is just to practice, which I did a lot of. Yeah, and just really trying to stay. It's not so much about running really fast. It's just about being consistent and staying on track. That's really all I tried to do. And I found myself here.
And you were, it sounds like, the only one with 3 incidents. So that was pretty incredible out there. So that has got to feel good, my friend. Anybody that you want to thank for this run today?
Yes, sir. First and foremost, I want to thank my wife and my daughter for supporting me in this hobby. Second of all, I got to give a big shout out to Ed Nelson and his crew, Dewey Kang, Joe Stifel, Jacob Schum, for helping me practice. And I'd like to thank you guys. I love watching the YouTube broadcasts and the PCA's steering committee and the PCA in general for bringing us all together with these awesome cars that we're allowed to drive.
Well, I know we are more than happy to bring it to you here, my friend. Thank you so much. Joe?
That takes us to our third place finisher, Chris Pippin. Rachel has caught up with the number 16 driver of what is a race that we didn't see a whole lot of on screen.
Yes, it was. Well, thank you very much for joining us. And that was an incredibly busy race for you, Chris. 9th to 3rd, though. Great move there. 6 spots gained. What was it like trying to find traffic on this circuit?
I thought last week was tough. This week, sure, even harder. A narrower track, less forgiving in a lot of places. So it was really very much a patience game, biding your time, and really being sure that you had a good solid run to attempt to pass, and you didn't want to leave anything to chance. And on that same thought, to thank all the people that were a lap down, they did a really good job of giving room to let us by, because otherwise it could have been really bad.
Yes, certainly could be, of course. Well, anybody like to give a shout out to or thank?
Actually, the race winner tonight, Garrett Taylor, he followed me for a lap in practice today. This is a new track for me, and he gave me some pointers and helped me out. And I think that actually kind of exemplifies what's so great about PCA is that, competitors, and he's happy to help me. I think he beat me by a minute in the race, so maybe he kept a few pointers to himself, but I'm totally happy to help me. I think that's a great part of what PCA is all about.
That actually sounds fantastic. Awesome. And definitely something we've seen from the PCA so far. Thanks for joining us, Chris Pippin, coming home today in 3rd. Guys?
Thank you.
And that's going to wrap up our interviews here for the challenge class, but there is more racing yet to come. We head off for the sport class here in a moment. Stick around for more of the PCA Sim Racing Series presented by Hagerty.
Hagerty is the world's largest provider of specialty insurance for enthusiast vehicles and supports keeping car culture alive through youth programs, the Historic Vehicle Association, the RPM Foundation, and more. Hagerty is home to key programs such as the Hagerty Drivers Club, Hagerty Drive Share, Hagerty Valuation Tools, the Hagerty Drivers Club magazine, and much, much more. For more information, visit their website at hagerty.com. PCA Sim Racing is proud to have Hagerty Motorsports as its 2021 title sponsor.
Welcome back to Oulton Park. We are now here for the sport class, and this championship is extremely tight at the top. Thomas Doherty only ahead by the mere 8 points over Mark O'Harris, and Mark is coming off of 3 straight wins, so he's coming on strong. Ben Leung currently sits in third in this class with Morgan and Florian behind him to round out your top 5 amongst these. As for the Air Reinigen class for these guys is Marco Harris, also on quite a charge on that one. He only has 12 incidents, but this one remains tight over here as well. There is a mere 5 points between first to fourth. Harris, Davis, Doherty, and Leung, those 4, and then down to fifth, it is only 9 points down to Keith Morgan. So keep your eye on that space. It's going to be tough to try and find an edge amongst those drivers. And as you can see, they're already out on track as the sun has gotten a little bit higher in the sky. And once again, we are glad that you're joining us here as we have DJ Clark next to me in the booth, along with down on pit lane, the likes of Rachel Whiteford and Taylor Burris. And then, of course, let's not forget behind the scenes, our social media guru, Cameron Alberan, and Ryan Bauer, our producer, who's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. So it looks like we are ready for our sponsor for this race as well, which is, of course, Pirelli. Pirelli was founded in Milan in 1872 and is a global brand known for its cutting-edge technology, high-end production, excellence, and passion for innovation that draws heavily on its Italian roots. Pirelli is among the world's major producers of tires and is an OEM supplier to Porsche. Find more about Pirelli at Pirelli.com. Looks like we are ready for the grid as well, and no surprises here. Mark Harris is on the pole position. Volker Krebs will be starting to his outside. It is Keith Morgan starting third, followed by Ben Leung in P4, Dean Chapman in fifth, and then his outside has Daniel Florian on the end of row 3. Jason Brodigan will start from 7th with Trey Davis P8 and Robert Walton in 9th. David Snelling will round out your top 10.
Starting off in 11th, it's going to be Enrico Gregorto with Carl Bocelli in 12th. Abhijit Barua will be 13th, followed by Peter Yerxa in 14th. Will Mungia is 15th, followed by Antonio Da Silva and Jeff Williams, with James Bernard and Henry Rogers in 18th and 19th. Edward Trippett rounds out your top 20.
Stephen Jacoby will be in 21st. It's Bob Moore in the 22nd position. Then you've got Tom Crane, P23. Andrew Hillman starts 24th. Quarter century mark goes to Adam Hollins. Then it's Adam Gerling in 26th, with Kurt Gifford starting 27th. The last driver to set a time, Arnie Clayson, all the way in the back. Usually he's up towards the front. That's going to be a long race for him. Rapolos starts 29th. Val Asensio 31st with Sarumi 30th. So the drivers already on their way through Druids as they start the pace lap. DJ, lap was frantic last time as we look at our screen of drivers that are giving us their onboard views. Hopefully we'll get a little less cars off track and a few more fighting on the track.
Well, I would hope so, Joe, but you and I have covered this track in series across the board, really, and no matter what kind of car you put on here and what kind of skill level, it always throws out some scary moments.
Absolutely. In fact, we've even seen the Camel GT Series racing here as the green flag is out, and it is not the greatest of starts for Mark Harris. He is not able to get away from Krebs down into the first corner, who tries to challenge around the outside, but now he slots back into line. Little bit of door banging between Leung and Morgan, but they seem to get away with it as the rest of them now file out of Old Hall, and I'm not seeing any wrecks yet.
No, well, there is one in the back. Oh!
And our leader, Mark Harris, spins out of Cascades right into the Armco. He falls to the very back of the field at the start of this thing, and that is going to be him having to make up a ton of spots.
It is indeed. Let's check out this. Oh my goodness. Mark Harris, just absolutely the worst thing you want happening. I'm seeing some more calamity in the back still. Oh, that's all going down into shelled oils.
And I think we're live here. So apologies for that. But yeah, you could see him having to go through all the problems there. So that at least gives him a couple spots. And I think they just called a caution. Yes.
Did.
So the drivers are going to get backed up. They're going to try and clean this up a little bit. In the meantime, I understand Rachel has a little bit of news for us. Rachel, what's going on?
Well, you know, at the time when I was going to bring this up, there were a couple of little moments until it just went horribly wrong. But we had some real chaos coming out of the back of the circuit there. The 10 solo spin off into the grass and nearly rejoined. But the big one, though, was a cascading contact between the 864 machine and the 5. So Tom Crane and Andrew Hillman, and they came together in a big way, sending cars around into the track, sideways, back into the racing line, and bonk, bonk, bonk. It was like a Newton's Cradle, just with race cars, as about 8 separate cars got involved in that one.
Well, this is very good news for Keith Morgan, who now inherits second place after our pollster spun off one of the first few corners of the track, and we're getting into this round fourth in the points. Now, that said, I believe he's more than he's more than 100 points behind Doherty as he came in.
All right, so now as we start to reshuffle this field behind the safety car out here, what this is going to do is this will set a whole different way to start this off. Volker Krebs will be lining up in P1 by my calculations. Keith Morgan right behind him, Ben Leong, Daniel Florian, Dean Chapman. That will make out your top 5 as of right now.
Man, this changes things drastically, because not only does this bring everybody closer back together, DJ, but this means that they have less time to race as well. Once we get restarted, I believe we're going to be somewhere in the realm of like 39 minutes left to go.
Yeah, Joe, and unfortunately what that may do is it may amp up the stakes on these drivers. We may see a little bit more aggressiveness coming out of them. Now, we didn't really get a chance to talk about this before we went green, but the track is a little bit warmer, but it's still chilly by most motor racing standards. 73 degrees Fahrenheit out on track. I think what we saw a lot of out there was just a case of cold tires.
Yeah, and I know one of those drivers suffering from cold tires was Bernard, who I think was the first to spin in that incident that happened out of Island Bend. We're going to see if we are getting a replay of that one or not here in just a moment. Oh, and unfortunately, we had a wreck in the back as drivers caught the tail of the field. Just saw Adam Gerling, along with De Silva and Mungia, have some problems getting woed up in time.
Yeah, so that can happen as well. Looking back at what I think was the real precipitation of all of this going down into that corner, Andrew Hillman was one that definitely got caught out a little bit. It looked like that was going through Cascades, that was the first big kerfluffle, let's call it.
So I think we are going to get a replay here of the 44 here in a moment, as we're trying to get that spooled up. We're watching everybody just kind of cruising behind the pace car. Here we go. This is up and out of Deerleap, and this is Bernard. Started up in 22nd after this incident. It falls down to, actually is in 22nd right now. Excuse me. Bernard started from 18th place, so actually not a whole lot lost there, interestingly enough. You're going to see it out of Cascades. Oh, and there's an incident I didn't see before either, coming into Denton's, it seems, and more problems behind them. Holy cow, we were so focused on Harris spinning off that we hadn't seen all of that craziness back there.
Yeah, and that was that Hillman incident that I was noting earlier, Joe. It just looked like he and Thomas Crane got a little bit into each other, and that's what caused that big checkup around. Here's Long Ray Sarumi, off into the grass there, just tries to keep his foot in it the best that he can, comes back onto the track as safe as possible.
And that camera angle, unfortunately, didn't give us quite the view that we were hoping for. This is such an odd dynamic compared to what we witnessed last week, DJ, because we saw the challenge class have a hard time. Here's Gerling trying to weave his way through that accident in Cascades. VIR had the challenge class really struggling, and then the sport guys came in and put on an incredibly clean and fantastic show. It's almost, well, it hasn't been completely reversed, but I had high hopes that the sport class would come in and show the challenge guys how it's done, but this has been drastically messier.
Yeah, it really, really has, and I think it is just a result of drivers knowing how hard it is to pass. It's something we talked a little bit about, actually, when we went into the pro class, when we were at Fontana, Joe, is that we talked about how tough it was to pass, and it was the same thing at VIR, that we suspected there were going to be a little bit more aggressive moves going forward as we rose up through the classes because of the lack of overtaking opportunity, and that could cause a little bit more of coming togethers over the course of the lap.
Okay, and let me double check, see if the lights are off on the pace car. No, they are still on. So we're going to go around for another lap after this one. Drivers still have time to think about things, and we are actually 37 minutes left to go now. So yeah, this is taking a big chunk out of their potential time to race. Almost kind of wonder what this will do for the fuel scenario as well.
Well, it should be able to extend that fuel window a little bit, but this isn't really a track where you can do a whole lot of fuel saving. There's not a lot where you're able to sort of tuck up behind in the draft and do that sort of traditional lift in that. And truly, there's only two heavy braking zones, heavy braking zones, and that's really going into Britton's and Hislops. And so with that, I don't think you're going to see anybody be able to no-stop this thing, but it may extend the window.
That'll certainly be fascinating to watch. And let's see, do we still have, is anybody out of this one? No, it looks like I think the last of the drivers that had to take tows into pit lane are finally emerging out. So that's the good news. The spare car that the drivers are given in this series are allowing everybody to try and get back in and compete. But it seems that our drivers have got to deal with a lot more chaos as we now have two starts on the day. And the lights are off on the pace car, so we are going to get started this next time by.
And Joe, it is a single file restart here, so we're not going to have nearly as much of possibility for kerfluffle as we did on that first lap going through Old Hall and down into Cascades. But I still think you're going to see some aggressive driving here, just looking up and down through the field. I think Ken Morgan's got a little bit of damage to the left side of his car, although that may just be the paint scheme playing tricks on me. But there's going to be some drivers here up at the front with damage. There's going to be some drivers looking to gain back spots. This is really going to reshuffle absolutely everything.
Okay. So drivers have found themselves reset and the track temperature still slightly cool. Now, we saw this before when we had our only other caution, I believe, this season, DJ, at VAR. The cool tires, that could be a bit of a problem for our drivers as well.
It could indeed, and you know, VIR, it was a long pace lap around here. With these guys, they may actually be a little bit better off running a couple of laps behind the safety car. Yes, they're going slow right now, but they are able to do some little things. Braking and coming back onto the throttle a little bit, getting the brakes warmed up, getting the tires warmed up the best that they can. It's not like they're sitting stationary for a long period of time. And as we said with the tires, the brakes are just as important. You do not want to be diving into a corner like Cascades or certainly Shell Oil's corner with cool brakes. You want to make sure those are up in their operating temperatures. Otherwise, you can very, very easily lock up the fronts and find yourself in a world of trouble.
There's been a lot of chatter as well amongst the stewards and the drivers here. I think some of this is just trying to get them into line, into the order that they're happy with. But they have definitely been on the ball on this one, trying to make sure that everybody, is heads up before we go back green flag racing. Okay. Again, this is penultimate round too, so drivers in the championship hunt have found themselves with a curveball thrown at them. Volker Krebs, who came in 10th in the championship, finds himself with a potential win on the cards. That would be his first of the series here in Series 7. And that will be a nice little feather in his cap if he can bring it home from here. However, our pole sitter, where did he wind up actually? Trying to find him. Mark Harris back in 15th. Can he pass 15 cars in 33 minutes? That is going to be a bit of a tall ask at a track like this. They're coming now through Lodge Corner. And last time we saw that the pace car tends to dip off early and the green flag gets waved almost immediately. Is Krebs, yep, there it is right there already. Krebs has to go, and he's not going. Unfortunately, it looks like Keith Morgan has a huge jump on him. Now Keith Morgan has the lead, and that is our fourth place driver in the points, managing to snatch a live one here. Manages to stop it at second place as Leung's not able to get by. What a heads-up move from the 700 car.
Absolutely incredible. That's exactly what he's got to do. He's got to be a little bit worried. I was taking a look at him. He does have some left rear damage on that 700 machine. Let's check out this heads-up replay. Keith Morgan just caught Krebs napping and said, "Thank you very much. I will take the point."
And it sounds like Taylor caught a little bit of what happened there. What was going on with that start?
It looks like a little bit of wheel spin was happening to our former race leader right there. That's one of the major problems when you're not having the tires up to temperature and always having to be under those pace speeds. You'll lose the temperature in the tires. That's where some drivers will try to warm them up a little bit in order to get a better grip on those starts. But either it's a wheel spin along with maybe missing a shift when getting up through the gears.
And it sounds like we have one of these stewards with us. This is DJ Lyon. DJ, you have an update for us on this race?
Yeah, hey Joe. So at the start there, we try not to throw full course cautions and bring the safety car out unless we determine that the incidents were extremely bad, or there were a lot of people involved, or it was just a giant mess. So we talked about it for about half a second and decided to go ahead and throw it. It does bring a lot of challenges, especially with some of these road racing guys that don't have the ability to run, say, NASCAR style oval racing where they get caution flags almost on a 10 lap average basis. So had to walk them through a little bit of stuff, but these guys know what they're doing, and we had a really nice restart right there, and hoping to get everyone back on the track and get some green flag racing in.
Well, thank you so much for that update there. That was DJ Lyon, race director here today. Looks like we had another incident with Tom Crane and Andrew Hillman towards the back. Both of them are rolling once again.
Yeah, so everybody getting back and going again. Keith Morgan continues to lead here as we ride on board with P6, Trey Davis.
Trey Davis up from 8th position at the start on this one. Also see Adam Holland losing some positions. Looks like he had a small off in the hairpin. And into his laps here. Now on lap 6 of this race, Trey Davis at the back of the train as well. That's Chapman in front of him, Florian, Leon all the way up pretty much to our leader, Morgan.
Yeah, it is just a train here at this point. Carl Baccieri, remember, winner out in Montreal. He is right around in 10th, doing a very, very good job. And Taylor, I believe you have some information on our leader.
Keith Morgan is channeling his inner Jim Clark, a former winner at this hallowed ground of Oulton Park. Keith, of course, having a great job all season long, picking up a couple of great finishes. And as we pointed out during the championship, sitting 4th in the points. With this win, it could help propel him maybe to be within the top 3 in points. So keep an eye on seeing what he can do. Maybe even go to battle for this championship finale come the next round.
Great stuff there for the 700 car, which you see on your screen. But we come back now to 11th. Yurtsa chasing Boccieri. This is coming up to Shell's Oil as they come out of Island Bends. Oh, he falls back a little bit. Before that, he was right on the bumper.
He was, and I'm not sure if that was Brodigan or Snelling in front of him that kicked up a little bit of dirt that may have thrown him off. And Yurtsa, by the way, a very, very good aggressive driver, but Boccieri, one of the calmest drivers out on track, loves to drive smooth and collected. So I've got to think that is a little bit of a battle of wills. So we jump back here to 21st. This is Bob Moore on board in that full motion rig. Ooh, car off in front of him.
He's going to be feeling some bumps today. This is not only a narrow track, but it certainly has its fair share of cracks and crevices out there that'll jostle the car around. Back up to Ben Leon now, 3rd place. This top group has not separated. This is a complete contrast to what we witnessed last time out, where the leader took off like a shot. Keith Morgan only 0.4 of a second ahead of Krebs.
Yeah, and Krebs trying to poke his nose a little bit, trying to immediately take a wider line there into Old Hall, setting that corner up. It looked like Morgan may have been trying to break a little bit of a draft down the straightaway. I'm not sure what the strategy is there, but he's keeping a good line here for now. We jump back to Florian. This is P4. He's really sitting in the popcorn position of all of this, about a half second back of Ben Leon.
And as you'd expect with a race like this with some big wrecks at the start, there have been movers. Taylor's got the update on that.
Well, the biggest mover right now is car 666 of Ryan Rapalos, who is working his way through the field. Started in 29th position, has just now broken into the top 15. The Racing Total Region driver sits 21st in the point standings. If you can gain a few more spots, maybe try to battle for top 10, it would be a very good points night for him.
We watch on board with Rapalos in that 15th position, very close behind Jacoby. And not far ahead of him is Mark Harris, who's on his recovery, breaking down into his laps. All 4 of them stay in line. The front of this train right now, Jeff Williams in 12th.
Yeah, Jeff Williams in 12th, leading this off. Mark Harris didn't look like he had the best run there, but he's going to keep trying to go as much as he can. A little bit of a blink there for the 981. Stephen Jacoby trying to close in behind. Ooh, that was good there for Harris under braking.
Harris is making them work for this, and in fact, he's going to manage to stick his nose in down at the lodge. No, he's not. He's going to back out of it. And he'll have time, of course, to try and get by this one. He certainly seems to have the speed. We're still 26 minutes left to go on the clock. So we now hop on board with Mark. Remember, this was our pole sitter and has lost it by turn 3 of the first lap of the race. Right through here in Cascades. He squares it off. DJ trying to give himself the launch.
Yeah, trying to give himself a good launch. It looks like he may have a little bit going against him. Some left front damage on the end of that Porsche, but he's going to tuck in behind. There they go through Island Bend. Is he going to be gutsy enough to try to send this around the outside of Shell Oils? He is not. He's going to tuck it back in line, use that camber to his advantage, but he caught a little bit of the curb on the inside there, Joe. Watch out. Here comes Stephen Jacoby behind. This is a 3-way battle now.
Ooh, a little bit off behind him. Jacoby goes a little too hot through the corner, and that takes him out of the fight. Still close between Harris and Williams, but he doesn't show his nose into there. And, but he's going to get the cut back and just about gets shoved off course. That's not the first time we've seen drivers run out of space there through the back and forth that happens in Hislop's and in Knickerbrook. But in the meantime, it is time to bring you the Midway Race Report, brought to you by Pirelli. Pirelli was founded in Milan in 1872 and is a global brand known for its cutting-edge technology, high-end production, excellence, and passion for innovation that draws heavily on its Italian roots. Pirelli is among the world's major producers of tires and is an OEM supplier to Porsche. Find more about Pirelli at Pirelli.com. Rachel?
Thank you very much. Well, leading the way today is Keith Morgan in the 700 machine. The Central Indiana region driver started third. He is currently running first after a very tumultuous start to this race. Second place is going to be Volker Krebs, the Canada West region driver from zone number 6. And that 53 car is putting on today. He's actually where he started in that delicious Haribo machine that's making me hungry as always, in second. Ben Young in third, the Upper Canada region driver there in the 290 car. He is putting on a good show today, up from fourth, one place gained so far, and a lot of traffic here. Fourth place, Daniel Florian here, the Wilderness Trail region driver, zone number 3. He is up from 6th place in the 11 car. 5th place is going to be Dean Chapman. Chapman started 5th, running 5th right now. Northern New Jersey region driver of zone 1 in that 013 machine, in very, very yellow car. 6th is Trey Davis in the 217 from the First Settlers region of zone number 2. Davis started 8th, gain of 2. 7th place is Jason Brogan from the Maverick region, Texas driver there, the 14 car. Started 7th, running 7th. 8th place is David Snelling, the Northeast region of zone 1 in our 15 car. He started 10th, he's up 2 so far at the back of that train. 9th place is Robert Walton from Maverick region of zone 5 in that 2 car. Snelling, Rob Walton even, is started 9th and running 9th. And in 10th place, we have from 12th place in the grid, gain of 2, the A&T machine of Carl Bocchieri from Metropolitan in New York region. We've got his camera there for you. Racing away, focusing hard. P11 tonight is going to be the machine of Peter Yerxa, the Down East region driver from the 54 car, out of zone number 1. Yerxa started 14th, gain of 3. 12th place is Mark Harris from the Connecticut Valley region there. The 981 machine from zone 1. He, unfortunately, has had a rough day. He lost a lot of spots early on after that initial spin, recovering in 12th. 13th is Jeff D. Williams from the Rocky Mountain region in the 517. I always want to think of John Williams and music, but it's Jeff Williams, and right now he is up from 17th. 14th place is Stephen Jacoby, Lone Star region there. Car 6 from zone 5. Maths is always playing hard as suit. Up from 21st, so there's a gain of 7 so far for him. Ryan Rappelis there, we've got his onboard camera with a very art house angle. I do like your stairs. They definitely look comfortable. Taylor.
As we move on to the 16th position, we find the 888 of Kurt Clifford from the Rocky Mountain region. Started 27th, having a nice run here tonight. Moving on to 17th is Ajit Barua from the Mid-Ohio region, car 991. Not having a little bit of a tough run right now after starting in 13th. 18th position is Henry Rogers from the Peach State region. Started in 19th, gaining 1 spot. Moving on to 19th is Will Munguia, another Peach State region driver in the 907. Started 15th, lost 4 spots here so far. Rounding out your top 20 in his very out-of-this-world simulated rig is Bob Moore from the Northeast region, having a decent run, gaining 2 spots after starting in 22nd. 21st is going to be Adam Harlan, started in 25th from the Upper Canada region in that beautiful Volt livery paint scheme Porsche. 22nd position, right behind him, is Antonio De Silva from the Metropolitan New York region, as he has his VR headset on, working his way through the field after starting 16th. 23rd position is Adam Gerling in the 248, another Metropolitan New York region driver, has gained a couple of spots as starting 26th. 24th position goes to Tom Crane from the Mardi Gras region and his very out-of-this-world simulator rig, as he has 3 screens, VR headset and motion rig. Talk about space age as he's trying to lead into the corner right there. As you see, great drive for him. As we move on to 25th is Arnie Clayson from the San Diego region. 26 is James Bernard in car 44. The Alaska region driver is now on pit road. Edward Trippett from the Nordstern region now moves up a position to 26. The first car one lap down is Lonray Sarumi from the Chicago region, not having the best of the night, but looking to try to recover. 29th is Andrew Hillman from the Skoneslands region in his beautiful Porsche after starting in 21st. And newcomer, of course, is Enrico Gregorato, who won actually at the season finale of the Ballast Point entry-level series at the Auto Club Oval Circuit. Knows a thing or two about getting around road courses as well, but he is finishing running in 30. Go.
And this concludes, of course, our midway race report brought to you by Pirelli. Thank you once again to Pirelli, Rachel, and Taylor. Up at the front, it has not really changed all that much, although in the last lap, Keith Morgan finally got himself a bit of a gap to Leon, as it's about 1.3, but it's remained within closer than that for much of this time. There you see the battle for P2 on your screen. I can also report that I think we had a scheduled stop for Mark Harris, an early call for the 981 down and out of pit lane. I think this is a strategy call for him to try and get some clear air.
I think it was, Joe, but the reason why Keith Morgan, our leader, has a little bit of a gap is that Volker Krebs had an error coming out of Shell Oil's corner, caught a little bit of the inside grass, slowed the car down. He's now all the way back down into 6th position. So a good day going to worse here for the driver of that 53.
After he had a chance to lead the way and potentially take a win, it's kind of slipped through his fingers. There you see the number 6, or the 6th place number 53. And there's the replay. Ooh, good catch, though. Very good catch, because that was heading right for the tires for a second.
Yeah, it was very, very good, but what he did there, I think, is he just got on the throttle a little bit early coming through that corner. Obviously, very high camber corner. You think you can carry a lot of speed out of there, but it's got a tighter exit than you anticipate. And if you get on the throttle early, that car's going to want to understeer off the track. That's exactly what happened, and Volker was just right in using the wheel and that right pedal to keep things pointed forward. But now we jump over to Jason Brodigan, who's trying to chase down Dean Chapman for P4.
Chapman in the 013, in the highlighter yellow car, as Brodigan was really showing his nose, but he was way offline because of that. That's going to slow him down through his Lops chicane. Chapman, and we see is on board there, looking back briefly as we now hop back to our TV cameras. Now, I'm curious if there's some sort of story behind this whole cat thing, because it says say hello to the cat on the back of his car. Oh, excuse me, curiosity killed the cat. Now that we can, I think it says this cat, baby. Does it say the cat or this cat? Trying to look at it. This cat, okay. Well, he is racing very well from the grave then, in that case. But we'll have to ask him if we get to talk to him about if there's any special story on that livery. Meanwhile, Dean Chapman and the 013 only has about 0.2 of a second ahead of his rival as they come into the braking for Island Bend.
Indeed they do. Here they come around. Jason Brodigan continuing to challenge here as much as possible. Chapman looking this way and that. Nothing doing though quite yet. Switching back through that first set of chicanes. That's a little bit of the faster set there. That's Britain's. It's not nearly the heavy braking zone that goes down here into Hislops. And he's not going to look like he's going to be close enough to make the move.
No, not yet. But they're keeping it nice and tight here. Trippett is going to just duck out of the way. Nicely done there from the 444. Letting our drivers on the lead lap get through there. The lap traffic being caught surprisingly quick in some cases after everybody being backed up together due to the caution flag. Speaking of which, we theorized, DJ, that this wouldn't get rid of the pit stops, but we've seen shockingly few drivers in up till now.
Yeah, we really haven't. I mean, I'm looking down the order here. Mark Harris, Abhijit Barua around lap 13, 14. Lanre Surumi on 11. And so you're having drivers that are having that happen, but normally we do see the pit stops about halfway in this race. Because of the reduced speeds under caution, I would anticipate pit stops maybe within the next 5 minutes. I'll be honest, I didn't really do math here to anticipate a full course yellow, but just doing estimations, that's what I think in my head.
All right, coming once again up towards Island Bend. Looking to try and hit their brake markers down into Shell Oils. Look how much they are tempting fate with the edges of this track, kicking up dust out of Island Bend even. And then out of the hairpin, nobody really able to find an advantage.
Yeah, everybody's seeming pretty calm here and a little collected. And Joe, that makes me think that they do think pit stops are in order. They just want to stay calm, stay in a good position here until everybody dives into pit lane. The one problem that a lot of these leaders are going to have is if they dive in a little bit early, there's not a whole lot of big gaps out on track. The only real ones I'm seeing right now developing are there's about a 13-second gap between Kurt Coulthard in 16th and Antonio De Silva in 17th. If somebody can find that gap, that may be perfect for clean air, but that's about it.
Interesting stuff. And Boccieri here in 10th place is leading a small train himself, Yurtza, and Jeff Williams in behind him, cresting to start lap 17. Here we go. Peter in the 54 now takes himself into pit lane, so that's another call. And he's got a very early pit stall, so he has to really duck over to find that as we head over to Dean Chapman once again. And Brodigan chasing him, but look at how much he's caught up to Florian. It seems like the 11 struggling to pull away. I believe this gap was much bigger last time we looked.
Yeah, it certainly was a good bit bigger. And as we continue to watch this battle, Taylor, I believe you've got something for us.
I'm going to go and look at one of our long-standing competitors in the PCA, and that's none other than Bob Moore. Bob Moore, of course, has been racing with PCA and sim racing for about 5 years now. He's picked up one career win in PCA competition. That was in a sports race. But one thing that he does love is, of course, all things British motor racing and British sports cars. And utilizing, of course, that very beautiful motion rig that he's out there utilizing right now, it's been able to help him utilize and have some great performances and keep on the track here. We'll see how he is after he completed his pit stop.
Highest driver to have pitted currently, Munguia out there in the 907. This is Arnie Clayson down a little farther, 21st. This is in a train as well. This goes up to what looks like 18th place, Adam Gerling. And they are just behind Mark Harris. Now, if you're wondering, well, how did Mark Harris go farther back? Again, if you missed recently, he did have a pit stop. So that's why he is having to try and go by a few cars again, but he will inherit some once other drivers come in. As way wide goes Peter Yurtza. He thankfully does not go too wide and stays on the pavement, but that loses him an opportunity on Gerling.
It does indeed. We jump back up here, though, to Ben Leung, currently in second place. That is your leader, Keith Morgan, about a second or so ahead of him. Ben has just been keeping this gap as even as he can. He was very faster on the last lap, actually. He was faster by the tune of about a half a second. And it was the fastest lap of the race that had been set here. So I wonder if that means Ben knows he's coming to the end of his pit stop cycle and he's going to have to come in. He is putting down the proverbial hammer here.
Through Druids once again. Oh, and a car off track there. That was Adam Holland. That was a lap down vehicle, so not for position. This is once again back to Clayson. Still stuck between Crane and Barua. Crane has not taken his pit stop. Barua has, but it looks like that was a short one. Oh, and our leader is in, along with Leung and Florian. So that's our podium all down on the same lap.
All right, that's a little bit surprising, Joe. I would have thought that specifically for Florian or Leung, they would have wanted to do the opposite of what Keith Morgan was doing. The one counter to that, I will say, is that Leung wasn't really close enough to be massively held up by Keith Morgan. So we'll have to see how this strategy plays out.
Just going over the crest, coming out of Druids. Looking for Lodge. Any other takers here? Elevation change in this place, so dramatic out here. Oh, is that a mistake back there? I think Barua had a big bobble and a mistake as well from Crane. He's going to defend the inside as they come into Old Hall, and Claysons can do nothing about it.
I do not know how they did not come to blows on that one, Joe. That was very, very close, very, very sketchy, but a good job there for both drivers to keep both cars pointed forward.
Crane's got to be careful with that motion rig. This is the sort of track that make him motion sick, going up and down so much. So now they get into the banking. Barua recovers very quickly despite that slip up coming out of Lodge. As we watch from behind that number 991 and down into Britain's. Ooh, very good ended there from, and here is Dean Chapman now into pit lane as well.
Yeah, so we've got drivers diving in. And Joe, I want to give a quick update to the leaders that all pitted at 3 at the same time. This is Ben Leung. He caught the worst luck in the world. He was just about on par with Keith Morgan cone to cone, but he came out sandwiched in between a couple of cars that were a lap down from them, that were farther down in the order, and as a result, he lost some time to Keith Morgan up ahead of them. Now a couple of drivers have come through, but Carl Baccieri still in the middle of that, and that has put Leung about 3 seconds back of who your leader will be when these pit stop cycles work their way out.
Yeah, and Baccieri is definitely a little bit slower than Leung from what I'm seeing on the lap times. So he's likely to get caught unless he pits probably about this lap.
Yeah, I can't imagine we're going to see drivers stretching a whole lot longer here. The only couple that I haven't seen are Krebs, Snelling, Boccieri, and Crane right now.
So that's most of them done. It just took a little bit longer, but as much as we were scared about drivers going long here, it seems like they have indeed needed some fuel to get to the end. Krebs and Snelling fighting for first, as you can see on your screen, but again, they still need to take a stop, so we come around Lodge one more time. Neither of them spinning their tires up like we saw before, and only one of them going in. That is Snelling.
All right, so Krebs is going to stay on out. The next one that we got to check up in on is Carl Baccieri, but we're right on board with Keith Morgan here, he has already pitted. This is who we anticipate being your leader when pit cycles rework. There he goes. He bumps his way up into P2, passing Snelling in the pits.
Yeah, but look at this lap traffic in front of him. Holland and Hillman kind of in his way here, and he's looking offline. Got to be careful. We've already seen Cascades bite so many drivers today. And he falls back once again. But now that he got a little bit of a gap to Leung, I guess he can kind of play more patient with these two.
He can play a little bit more patient, Joe, but the more he does, he is losing time. He was 0.4 of a second slower on that last lap. Remember, the lap before they came into the pits, Leung was a 0.5 second faster than Morgan. I think Leung has got some speed in this car, and Morgan is going to be getting a little bit frustrated getting held up there. He's able to clear one of the lapped cars.
Yeah, thankfully facilitated a little bit by Hillman. Saw what was happening. Saw the blue flags and decided it was time to try and let him through, since he's not fighting too hard for this position and he doesn't want to play a part in this battle. Looking through and seeing if we have anybody that's still tight. Looks like Leung and Florian are somewhat close. But here in these last 5 minutes before we leave this track, since you do have such intimate knowledge of this place, Rachel, give us a good one, a little tidbit that the rest of us didn't know here.
Well, there's a good one for you Americans. Now, the park this place is built in is Oulton Hall's grounds, which burned down in 1926. However, this ground and the land it's built on was used throughout the war. In fact, it was a staging camp where General Patton was actually based in the run-up to Normandy, the Normandy landings. You know who his PT instructor was? The world heavyweight champion Joe Louis, the boxer. Yeah, they even gave exhibition bouts down in Deer Leap.
Go figure. Well, it's a natural little amphitheater, so it makes sense to me. That is very cool. I didn't know that one about that place, as they now come through Island Bend. Had a bit of a moment there. I think that was Adam Holland who went off as he was being lapped by Keith Morgan. Thankfully, did not result in an accident. But, and speaking of which, Holland just had another accident going off once again in Shell's Oil, so been a bit of a bad day. Meanwhile, here's Jason Brodigan, is up to 8th place. Well, down, really. He started from 7th. He's trying to get that one back. That's Trey Davis right in front of him.
Yes, it is, and he's looking like he may have a little bit of a move here as they come down the hill. He's going to have to be late on the brakes if he wants it into Hislops. Decides not to go for it. Still able to get the corner. Carries some good speed out of it now as they work their way through Knickerbrook. And Brodigan's going to lose a little bit of time. I think broke just a hair late there, but still able to keep going.
Well, Mark Harris, who tried pitting early, has not been able to get the lead back as we look at our actual leader, Keith Morgan, down to 3 minutes to go on the clock now. For those curious, our pole sitter has only been able to get up to 9th so far.
Yeah, so he's not having the best run here, Joe, but we may only have about 3.5 minutes here to go. But as we ride on board with Daniel Florian, he's within about a second of Ben Leung. I've been talking about this really since they've come out of the pit stops. Leung is faster than Keith Morgan. Last lap, 0.6 of a second, and the gap is now holding at about 1.5. I think we may just be in here for a little bit of a showdown at the finish between Leung and Morgan, and maybe Florian if he plays his cards right.
Been still yet to take a victory so far this season. So we now ride with Rapolas back here in 13th spot. This is Yurtsa just ahead of him, who's also trying to size up Boccieri down into the hairpin. Takes a much wider entry. Is this going to give him the launch that he needs? No, it doesn't look like it.
No, not quite able to get it right there. Boccieri's collected nature. Woo, very close to the back. There was Yurtsa coming up behind him. But, yeah, I love watching Carl's onboards. He could literally just be playing solitaire the way he is driving this car. It's absolutely incredible to see his composure.
By the way, our top 3 right now, none of them have actually won a race yet this series. So we are looking very likely to have a new winner. And Keith Morgan among them, really the key to trying to close the gap to Doherty, who's not here today, and now Mark Harris, who had such a great streak of victories, suddenly finds all that luck's dissipating in just a moment, and is only going to collect about a top 10 so far here today. On board still into the hairpin at Shell Oils as Leung trails behind Morgan, but Florian starts to gather him up. It's down to 0.7 of a second, and you aren't kidding about things coming together here. We're going to get the white flag, and Leung's got it down to 0.8 of a second now.
Yeah, he was 0.8 of a second faster on that last lap, Joe. Looks like he loses a little bit of time through the final sector of the track. That may come out to bite him a little bit, but he is certainly pulling him in. 7.8 of a second right here as they accelerate out of Knickerbrook. It looks like Morgan may have a little bit more straight line speed, and that's allowing for him to pull away a little bit, but Leung looks very, very strong through the first and second sectors of this track. We'll have to see here as they cross over into Lodge and Deerleaf what this final lap time is, and if Leung is going to be able to send a last-minute, last-lap maneuver on Keith Morgan.
Morgan responding, trying to keep himself clear and out of reach from the 290. White flag waves for Keith Morgan as they come through Old Hall. Florian still trailing behind Leung as well. If there's any sort of mistake out of that 290, the 11 is likely going to pounce. Let's see if they can safely navigate Cascades, all three of them through.
0.5 of a second faster for the 290 of Ben Leong. He is going to be tucked up behind here in the draft as they go through Island Bend. A little bit of a kick up of the dirt in front of there for Keith Morgan. Morgan takes a defensive line going into Shell's Oils. That's going to throw off Leong ever so slightly, but the gap is now at about 0.5 of a second.
Down into Britain's, the first of the two chicanes, and look how strong Daniel is. Nearly gets to the back bumper of the 290, and he keeps the speed up off the exit as well. Just about 2 car lengths between them. Down to the braking once again, and he's going to sit it very deep. Oh, but he touches him. Leung is around, and it looks like Florian is going to be able to go through. Not sure how the stewards will feel about that, as Dean Chapman actually moves up into third.
Oh, Leung losing a whole bunch of positions. I've got to say that was not the brightest move there from Florian. There wasn't even a door open. I would say that door was maybe a sliver.
Yeah, I fear that might result in a penalty, but we'll see what they think. In the meantime, Keith Morgan has got to be thinking, I have got to go buy a lottery ticket, because it fell in his lap and he grabbed it with both hands as the 700 takes the win.
Very commanding drive to hold on to that pressure. Here comes Volker Krebs trying to see if he can get anything on Dean Chapman, but he is going to come home in P5. This is a good battle, though. This is Yerk, so Ryan Rapolis trying to see if he can make a move in the last couple of corners.
And looks like Mark Harris ahead of them. Going to come home shy of a top 5. He winds up 8th today. So down and across the line, Yurtsa. Oh, and Yurtsa comes into the pits. Is he trying to serve a penalty? Yes, he was black flagged for an incident, but he can't serve it here on the last lap. So this is unfortunately not going to go well for him. Rapolis gets 11th.
All right, and that will end up being a time penalty for Yerkes, so we'll have to see what happens with that. Remember, that happened a couple of weeks ago out on track as well, waiting for the last couple of drivers to come across the line here.
And I can confirm that Florian was given a black flag, so yeah, we absolutely have to wait for all the cars to finish so that we can see what that does to the order before we go through that. Last of them is Jeff Williams, who just crosses now. That'll give us finally a chance to take a look at how things wound up today, and it is Keith Morgan who took the victory from third on the grid, seeing both drivers struggle at the start and, well, the restart after that. Daniel Florian kept him honest. He finished second here today, but he inherited that second place as Chapman did as well into third because of Ben Leung getting tipped around. Oh, excuse me. Chapman is now been bumped up to second, so the order has now finally been updated. Apologies for that. Leung is in third with Volker Krebs finishing P4. Trey Davis gets a top 5 today. David Snelling in 6th with Mark Harris managing now in 7th place. But he did start from the pole, and so he is going to find himself caught up a little bit by those chasing him in the championship. Brodigan was 8th. Walton finished 9th, exactly where he started this race. And then how about Ryan Rapolis? The 666 went from 29th to 10th today.
Coming home in 11th, it was Will Mungia, followed by Daniel Florian with Carl Boccieri putting in another calm and collected drive. Stephen Jacoby was 14th, followed by Arnie Clausen with Adam Gerling in 16th and Abhijit Barua in 17th. Tom Crane was 18th and Peter Yerksa was 19th, with Jeff Williams rounding out your top 20.
21st was the last car on the lead lap, Antonio De Silva. Kirk Clifford finished P22 with Bob Moore in 23rd. It was Edward Trippett in 24th. 2 laps down for Andrew Hillman, 25th position. Adam Holland had a lot of offs today. He had to settle for 26, 2 laps down himself. Sarubi was 27th, along with Gregorato, who finished 28th. And then from there, it is DNS for Bernard, Rogers, and Asensio. It looks like we've got our winner ready to talk to us, and Keith Morgan finally able to stand on the top step. Congratulations, Keith. And we just saw on the screen now as you came in the replay of the incident of the leader spinning off. You have that and as well the bad start for Krebs. How lucky can one man be in one race?
Really? I mean, it's exactly what it was. Pure luck for me. I mean, I know for a fact that Mark has just absolutely blistering pace over me. Volker and I are pretty close, but we're so close that a pass short of doing something suicidal just wasn't going to happen. When I was running around behind him, I couldn't gain on him.
Now, after that, and, whenever I tell drivers, oh, well, you got lucky today. This wasn't just luck. You had drivers breathing down your neck for most of the race. How were you dealing with that pressure that whole time?
Well, I was trying to just tell myself, hit your marks. Just hit your marks, and they cannot pass you. If you're on the apex and you hit your braking references, they're just not going to be able to find a way by. And I was pretty confident in that strategy, literally until like the last 2 or 3 laps when I don't know what happened to Ben, but he dropped back like 3 seconds. The next thing I know, I look up and, he's cut that in half in a lap. And I'm thinking, well, maybe somebody does have the pace to get by me. But I think Ben just ran out of laps.
Oh, well, unfortunately, he also had someone tip into him, and that certainly kept him from finishing that P2. In the championship, you came in, I believe it was 122 points behind Doherty, but Doherty wasn't here. Harris had a bad day, and now Ben finished at least 2 positions behind you. This has got to feel good knowing that you're boosting up the order and things are going your way coming into the finale.
Well, it's surprising to me because I don't consider myself as fast as most of these guys, though. I think Mark kind of called me out for that in a practice this week. Maybe I am really, starting to figure out how to drive this GT3R. And I mean, honestly, I'm just thrilled to win in a Marine Corps livery on the Marine Corps birthday. That's awesome.
Oh, that is fantastic. Oh, that is a great stat to hear. Well, an extra congratulations then. Is there anybody you'd like to thank or shout out to?
Yeah, I'd like to thank you guys. You do such a great job. I really enjoy watching the replays. My friends watch the replays. I've been told that you guys compare to, IMSA broadcasts. They really couldn't tell the difference if they were just hearing the audio. So really appreciate the job you guys do. Really appreciate PCA for bringing you guys in, or however that works. And our sponsors, really appreciative of all of that. And of course, my wife that puts up with all this.
That's awesome. From Keith Morgan, who finished in P1 today in his number 700 machine, as it looks like DJ is caught up with Dean Chapman, had a bit of a surprise second place.
Indeed, Dean, we weren't expecting to talk to you here today, but you got to be feeling good, I got to say.
Yeah, that kind of was handed to me on a plate, really, wasn't it? I could see there were a couple of people that were trying a little too hard, and I'd like to thank Chris Pies for his track walk that I watched earlier. There were definitely places he said, do not try to overtake, and I saw in my in the distance, that was one of them. I saw them get into it, and I was like, yep, that's nice.
Well, obviously on a track like this, which is frankly different than what we've run at any point, so narrow, so difficult to overtake. You said before that you're kind of watching out for the no overtaking zones, but how does that affect your preparation going into it?
Well, the advice that we were given was set a good qualifying time, and it'll keep you out of trouble. But yeah, I kind of played around on this track a little bit this week, and I liked it a lot. I liked the fact that it was like kind of tricky, and that's the kind of track that I like.
Well, there you go. Our director, by the way, is telling me that all of his RC cars have the same day glow yellow that you have. So he wanted to thank you for that because it just looks fantastic on the car. But we do want to know. We want to know about the cat. Curiosity killed the cat. You got to explain this to us, man.
Yeah, that's exactly. Well, it was like a cat on a hot tin roof, and I was thinking to myself, the amount of times I've got in trouble on the track, either my bad driving or not looking ahead and seeing accidents. I just thought I would try for the lucky cat, and rather than 9 lives, I try to give myself 13 lives on this one.
Well, I mean, you know what they say. If you got the guts to die, but who has got the guts to live? And you clearly lived it out in this one, Dean. Anybody you want to thank for this second place today?
Well, of course, all the sponsors who put in a really good showing, and you guys always do a great job. Doug, who's been really trying hard to make this whole sim racing scene grow as he has. As I say, Chris Paz, Mark Harris, Chris Braun, and everybody else who races in this league. It can be a lot of fun. You just got to stay out of trouble.
Well, stay out of trouble. You did, Dean. Congratulations on a second place here today. Joe?
And lastly, we have Ben Leung, who finished third out there, and Taylor Burris has caught up with the 290 driver.
I certainly have, Joe. Been a very strong performance for you today after just only gaining one extra position, but you were able to avoid the chaos in the opening stages. Walk us through what went through your mind when having all of that happening on the opening laps.
Well, I was lucky enough to start close to the front of the pack, so I think we were just very careful first lap, didn't want to make any contact with anybody, and I think I avoided most of that chaos, I guess, happening in the back. And then I think Mark Harris did do a spin in front of us, but he was off to the side, so there was no contact with anybody, I don't think.
Well, Ben, explain to our listeners the difficulty that is Oulton Park and what provides this unique challenge compared to maybe some of the other circuits that we've raced so far this season.
I think coming from VIR last week, which was also another very difficult track, this is a very similar track with a lot of blind corners. The only difference is I think this track is narrower than VIR, so there's really no room to run off or do passing. And a lot of the straights are also very short. So even if you had a great exit out of the corner, it's really hard to get a pass on anybody.
Well, Ben, before we let you go, anyone you would like to give a shout out to or thank you to?
Oh, I'd like to thank all sponsors, so Pirelli, Hagerty, and also all my UCR teammates. Every week we, have fun practicing together, and thank you for Joe and Nikki for looking at VRS data for us, and John, Terrence, and Paul for keeping us company while we practice.
That is Ben Luong, who comes home in third place. Joe?
That's going to, of course, wrap us up, and we will see you next time at Oulton Park for the club and pro classes. That all kicks off at 9 p.m. Eastern on Friday, November 12th, live here on Podium Esports. Thank you so much to our title sponsor, Hagerty, as well as the series sponsors, Z1 Dashboard and Pirelli. A big thank you to the steering committee at PCA Sim Racing, and a huge thanks to our team tonight, DJ, Rachel, Ryan, Cameron, and Dougie. Also, none of this would be possible without those behind the scenes at Podium Esports, James Pike, Gary Sexton, Cisco Scaramuza, and John Theodore. Thank you so much for watching tonight's broadcast of PCA Sim Racing presented by Hagerty. I'm Joe Peak, and I'll see you on the track.